You're listening to the Creativepreneur Podcast, episode 14, and today we're talking about how to create your customer appreciation plan that not only keeps more of your ideal clients and customers coming back, but sending ideal referrals your way. So, stay tuned. Hello, my name is Rodney Washington, author, artist, and entrepreneur, and I'm passionate about helping creatives just like you do what lights you up and make a comfortable living while doing it. Each week, I'll be sharing timely business growth, marketing, and mindset hacks and interviews with courageous creative entrepreneurs to inspire you to get paid for your creativity. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy today's show. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my free audio, book, and PDF, Get Paid for Your Creativity, 57 Ways to Monetize Your Gifts and Create True Security for Yourself. To get your hands on a copy of the free audiobook and PDF, go to getpaidforyourcreativity.com/57ways-gift. Welcome back to the podcast. I want to kick off this episode with a quote that I mentioned in the free gift, the 57 Ways ebook gift that I have for you, that reads, "Nobody cares how much you know until you show how much you care. Don't believe me? Ask a disappointed customer." It's been said that acquiring a new customer is anywhere from 5 to 25 times more expensive than keeping an existing one. So in this episode of the podcast, I'm going to give you some tips and strategies on 5 ways to up your customer service game by keeping your existing customers happy so they'll reward you with new referrals on autopilot. But first, in a former life, I worked as a trainer at the Four Seasons hotels, and regardless if you stayed at one of their properties or not, the number one thing that the company prides itself on is creating the best experience possible for their customers. Now, extensive data is collected on all of its guests, so no matter what property you're visiting, whether you're in Shanghai, or say you're in the Maldives, or in New York, or San Francisco, or Miami, or Mexico, or Buenos Aires, wherever you're staying, the company has developed a system that allows the staff to know what your likes, your dislikes are. For an example, if you're allergic to, say, feather pillows, no matter which property you're staying at, they know before you arrive that you're allergic to feather pillows, and so your pillows will be changed before you arrive. So I bring this up because I learned how what I feel is the number one key to providing a really extraordinary and excellent customer experience for your clients. And that is knowing their likes, their dislikes, the things that they care about, and the things that they appreciate. And once you learn that information, you're able then to anticipate their needs and stay one step ahead. So no matter wherever they are in their work process with you, from beginning all the way to conclusion of a project, if your project ends at a certain time, you know what their likes and dislikes are, how they like to be, say, addressed, for an example, how they like to be communicated with. And that whether you're a team of 1 or you're a team of 5 or whatever the case may be, everyone knows this and is on the same page, so that the service is consistent no matter when you're ever in contact with them, or say anyone on your team is in contact with your customers. So with what I just shared about the way the Four Seasons likes to basically collect data on their clients and their clients and their guests, so that they know how they like to be best served, this leads me to what I'm going to share with you today is a 5-tip customer appreciation program or process that you can implement in your own business, no matter if you're a solo entrepreneur or you work with, say, another team member or several team members. The 5 tips I'm going to share with you today can be used across the board and can go a long way in helping you to not only create a better experience for your clients and your customers, but also keep them in that space where they really enjoy working with you and they talk about you to other people, which hence brings in the referrals that I mentioned at the earlier part of the the episode here. So I'm going to share 5 tips with you, and I'm going to give you some pointers and some suggestions, and also a list of resources at the end that you can refer to help you develop your own customer appreciation plan. So the first tip is collect data as you onboard new customers. Now, as I said earlier, when, for example, using the Four Seasons as an example, once you communicate to the staff, no matter if it's housekeeping or if it's room service or if it's the dining room or if it's the pool staff or wherever, the spa, whatever, everything that you have concern about, an issue with, maybe an allergic reaction to, no matter what it is, they log that information into their database. Therefore, whenever you're staying at another property, it's already known what your particular likes and dislikes are so that they can address those things and anticipate those ahead of time so that you will have a flawless and ideally seamless service experience no matter which property you're staying at worldwide. So now I know we're not, a 5-star hotel, a multi-million dollar or possibly billion-dollar company, but even as a solo entrepreneur, you can still collect information on your customers that you can then refer to as you're working with them. And not just as it relates to the service deliverable that you give them, but also the things that they appreciate and enjoy that you can then reward them with and address them with, and as you move along your process of letting them know how much you appreciate working with them. So what I want to share with you here when I say collect data as you onboard new customers, and I'm going to go into more depth about an onboarding process in another tip coming up in a moment. But to kind of get this process started, when you're bringing in new people, take an opportunity to, as you get to know them, and maybe find out things about them, like find out about when their birthday is, find out, or perhaps maybe the anniversary of when they started their business. Ask them about any milestones that they've experienced, especially if the program that you're offering them has contributed to that milestone. For an example, celebrate their best or most recent launch. In other words, celebrate their wins. And I'm going to talk about that more in step 2 or tip number 2. Ask other options you could do is ask about their favorite author, their favorite flower, their favorite food item, possibly travel destination, hobby, or interest. Again, the best time to do this is as you're onboarding new clients or students into your programs. And I'll share more about how to do this in another tip coming up. And you can also do this as they're going through your program or as they're working with you. And you can do the same thing even if you sell products and not services. So this moves on to step number 2, which is celebrate their wins. Whatever it is we're doing, especially if we do some kind of maybe a coaching process or just say any kind of a process that it takes time to create the thing that the person is that they've bought from us. Let's say for an example, maybe you teach a process. And it's a process that takes maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, maybe a little bit longer, maybe even months possibly. If the process and the journey that they're going through will happen over a span of time, there are going to be areas where they may experience roadblocks, resistance, and these can be internal things that the client or customers or student is experiencing. And so by you being able to acknowledge and know and anticipate when those roadblocks or issues, internal blocks or issues may come up, you can anticipate those things. You can address that in your onboarding sequence, which is going to be an email series. I'm going to talk about that in tip number 5. But if you can anticipate those things, then you can address them ahead of time and ward them off at the pass so that you don't run into issues of people becoming frustrated and potentially going MIA on you. And it could go so far as potentially asking for a refund of whatever it is that they purchased from you because they feel stuck. They maybe are ashamed to ask for help. Perhaps, and again, may have nothing to do with you or how you serviced them, but it can most likely be a lot of internal things that they're experiencing. So again, if you can anticipate those roadblocks and set up a plan inside of your teaching of your program, that when they do a certain task, it gets them a win. And when they get that win, you acknowledge them for that. so that it keeps the encouragement level high. It keeps them engaged and feeling like you're getting what they're going through. You anticipated the roadblocks. You had a plan on how to address the roadblock. They got through the roadblock, and then you acknowledged them, and not only acknowledged them for getting through that piece or that part or whatever it is that you're offering, but that you celebrated them as they did it. And this goes a long way to build up confidence and to keep them engaged and feeling like you're invested in them as much as they invested their money into you and whatever it is that you're offering them. They want to feel that you also are emotionally invested in them as well. And that goes a long way towards keeping them as happy and engaged customers. So celebrate their wins. And there's ways to do that. For an example, I'm going to use, let's say, I'm going to use a story of my own. When I was in college, I took a drawing class. I always had an interest in drawing, and it was something I wanted to learn how to do. I really didn't have confidence in myself as a drawer, I guess in a sense I still really don't. But I did take a drawing class. And what I noticed immediately as we went through the weekly exercises is that I felt like I was surrounded by other students in the room, one in particular that always kind of sat next to me or a little bit in front of me. And I could always see I could see his work because it was always facing me. I was kind of looking over his shoulder, so to speak. And I always felt really intimidated by his work, really, because I felt like no matter what assignment that our drawing instructor gave us, I would look at his work, and to me, it was very photorealistic. And that was the result I wanted. In my mind, I thought that drawing had to look like basically a photograph. It had to be realistic and to scale and perspective and proportion, all of those things, shading and so on and so forth. And I just never could seem to get that. It always felt like a struggle to me. At the time, I really didn't know about this particular artist I'm going to mention in a second, but I always felt like my perspectives were off. It felt like, say, for example, if I drew a chair, I felt like that the seat, the perspective of it, it would almost feel like if someone was to sit in the chair, they would slide off of it. And so I just didn't feel confident about it at all. So towards the very end of our semester, our instructor took us into a room, and where he basically displayed everything we'd worked on over that entire semester. And then he critiqued us on our work. And I'll be honest, I did not feel confident at all. I felt like I completely failed all the way across the board. I just didn't, I didn't get it. I felt like I didn't get it. And quite frankly, it bothered me so much I didn't draw again. He had, really good perspectives and things to share with me. And actually I got, I think, a B+ in the class. But I didn't know this until I got older, was that if you're familiar with the painter Salvador Dali, where everything is abstract and it almost feels like that his objects are sort of melting, or they look very, they're not photorealistic, let's put it like that. That's what I felt my style was, although at the time I didn't look at it as a style. I looked at it as, I don't know how to draw because I can't make it look like a photograph. So where I bring this up and using this in this example is, if perhaps in my critiques and in my going through the process of the class, had my instructor maybe introduced me to Dali and showed me some of his books and talked about the way that the way he drew and his perspective and the way he painted his perspective, it would have gone a long way towards shifting where I was feeling inadequate because my things didn't look photorealistic, that it doesn't have to be photorealistic, that an art's work is only, it's of their own perspective, what they think of their work as their interpretation of their work. I'll just leave it at that. So I feel like if that was maybe introduced to me, then it would have possibly gone a long way towards shifting my perspective on that I don't have to draw photorealistic in order for me to be a good drawer in this case. And I only reason why I say that is that if that had been introduced to me and that if I had been shown what I was doing and possibly celebrate it as a win, if you will, it could have gone a long way towards bolstering my confidence and continuing with my drawing. So, anyway, I just want to share that quick example. But what I want to wrap it up to say is that I feel it's really important that as your customers and clients are going through your process, and this is assuming that you do something, you have a deliverable that you deliver to them over a period of time, like a course or a coaching or mentoring or something along those lines, that you do set up milestones and wins and you acknowledge them for those things because, again, it goes a long, long way towards helping your customer or your client feel that they are succeeding as they're working towards the larger vision or the larger promise that your program promised them when they purchased. Now, here are some ways to do this if you're doing this virtually. You can host what I call feedback sessions using a video conferencing tool called Zoom, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes. So let's use a watercolor painting instructor example. If you teach watercolor painting, or in this context, the person you teaches watercolor painting, they can have their students on a video conference and show them their work that they've been working on week to week. And you can give them feedback. You can give them critique. You can give them suggestions and give them different perspectives to think about so that they can feel that they're getting it as you're taking them through the process. So it's not this hands off. You don't see what they're doing because it's done virtually. So they don't get that encouragement and that feedback from you. So this is one way to do feedback sessions video-wise via video conferencing. You can do it through a tool like Zoom. If you teach anything that can be placed inside of, say, a Google document, say it's writing, or maybe you do creative writing or novel writing or whatever, something along those lines. People can share and give you access to that document via Google Docs. You can upload it to your Zoom screen, and then in real time, you two can work on edits and suggestions together with your student. Again, want to highlight areas where they did really well, give them suggestions where they can maybe tweak and make things even better. And I say celebrate the wins no matter how small, because like the old saying goes, a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down. If there is an area where you see, okay, they can have some improvement here, you can do it in a way that doesn't make them feel like, oh, I'm just not getting this, but give them some tweaks and give them some perspective changes and then help them to then feel like, okay, this person is invested in me getting this. And it goes a long way towards showing your customer that you appreciate them and that their commitment to wanting to learn this thing that they basically bought from you to do. So if you don't have the capability to do video conferencing, you can also do things via email or by phone and uploading documents, say, to a service like a Google Docs or something like that, and you can do it that way. Now, this moves on into once someone has become a client of yours and you want to move on to step 3 or tip number 3, send something physical. So I personally feel that we are living in a world right now that is so dominated by digital this and email that and text this that we've really lost touch with the physical touch. I mean, today we're at a point right now where we don't even really want to answer our phones because we get so many robocalls, callers calling us, trying to scam us out of our money. So a lot of times just actually having that phone conversation can be really challenging if the person doesn't really already know who's dialing them. So what I wanted to share with you in this one, and I saw a gentleman that a podcast that I really love called Mind Your Business Podcast by James Wedmore. And one of the things that he does is when someone purchases his program, Business by Design, he sends a physical journal and it's not really a day planner, but it's a planner. He sends this to them in the mail. and it's by a company called 90X Planner. Again, I'll have that link to that in the show notes. But anything that you can physically say, if you have a program that say maybe 500 to $1,000, it doesn't have to be. And I really don't want to get caught up in the numbers. I want you have to work out the numbers for yourself if it's cost efficient for you to do so. But if you can send your customers something physical, especially if the lion's share of your delivery is going to be digital or online, to be able to get something physical from you, say a book or a journal or something along those lines, to me, it closes the loop between the online experience and now creating an offline experience of you. And I think it helps to make you top of mind because, again, when someone has purchased something from you, your goal is to keep them engaged and in that same spirit of this person really cares about me, not just my money and that I've been able to pay them. And so by being able to give them something physical, I think goes a long way in cementing that relationship. And also, I feel like it helps you stand out from the crowd. The other thing, too, because everything is done via email or text or whatever the case may be, that our physical mailbox is the one box in our lives that doesn't have a spam filter. Now we know that because we also get junk mail in mailbox too. But no matter, you can send an email to someone and it goes to spam and they never see it. Possibly a text, but I doubt that. Most people are always going to see their text. But if you send something in the physical mail and they get it and they touch it, even if it's not your product, even if it's something that they appreciate or like or enjoy, it can be a note card of just thanks and appreciation. Something like that makes the experience more physical, it just feels more like a connection to you, that you took the time to put something in the mail and send it to them. It goes a long way towards connecting the online with the offline. So here are some ways that you can do this. Remember, in tip number 1, I said collect data. So what you can do with this one is, let's say, for an example, you teach maybe a writing program of some sort. If there's a book, whether it's yours or someone else's, that complements what you do, send them a copy of that book. Now, if it's something, say, that's maybe not really, it doesn't have to always be a direct relation to what it is that you sell, but I would try to tie it as well as you can as possible. You can also, now again, it depends upon the level of service that you're doing. It depends upon what it is that you're offering. It depends upon, again, some variables here. So these other suggestions may be ones that you want to exercise with caution, depending upon the product, the service, the relationship, and all of that. But you could send things like flour items, and you could send food items like brownies or cookies. There are ways to do that as well. But I try to say, tie in your thank you gift, if you will, to something that relates to the thing that you're selling, the thing that they bought from you, I should say. Now, again, the easiest that you can do is like a greeting card. And especially if you do artwork of some sort, this is a really fun one to do because you can upload an image of your art and it can be printed as a one-off and sent with your digital signature and a handwritten note, also digital, inside of that card and mailed to your customers. So thanking them for trusting you, for working with you, for signing up for your program or what have you. And again, it goes a long way. So it doesn't have to be an expensive book or food or flowers or anything like that. It can be something as simple as just a beautiful note card. Now, a service that I'm recommending is called Postable. And again, I'll have the link here in the show notes. But that's a fabulous online service that will mail for you special occasion greeting cards for birthdays, anniversaries, etc. Also featuring a custom personal message from you. So they will actually write it out for you in the card digitally. It's not actually written by a person, but it does have handwriting script. And that can be included in there. You can also upload a copy of your own handwriting to the service, and they'll take care of the rest, including converting your signature into fonts. So if you're a visual artist, this is a great way to upload copies of your artwork and send a note to them that way. And especially if you sell artwork, I think sending a thank you note with another piece of artwork is a great idea. Now I'm going to give you another one. This is sort of a unique idea and a unique twist, and this is something that you do on your own if you're going to send the card yourself. But I want to share, this is an idea that popped in my head and I wanted to share it with you. If you are a visual artist of some sort and say you have paintings, illustrations, photography, or anything of that nature, you can actually have your artwork turned into postage stamps. And those stamps can be included in your gift item, assuming that you're mailing the item yourself. Now, I like this idea because it's a unique twist on, well, first of all, you can use the stamp on the envelope that you send your note card to, let's assuming that you handwrite the card and mail it yourself. If you're using a service like Postable, I don't believe they do custom stamps. I'm not sure about that, but I know that there's a service called photostamps.com, and the link will be in the show notes, that you can go and upload your artwork and order your own stamps. So if, say, you mail something out to your client or customer, you might consider maybe adding maybe a dozen stamps of your work inside of that package. And so every time that client then has to address a letter and they use your stamp that you sent them with your artwork on there, that keeps you in their mind. So that's another way to stay top of mind. So it's a kind of a unique twist. You'll have to finagle the best way to do it for yourself. But I thought that was kind of a neat idea and a different twist on just sending the generic whatever, but sending them stamps featuring your work that they then obviously will have use for because they'll use the stamps. And again, whenever they use the stamp on whatever they send out, bills or whatever, they think about you. So again, the company that does that is called photostamps.com. Again, if they're expressed interest in a particular travel destination, maybe a hobby or interest, perhaps send them a book about it. These are other ideas that you could do. If you collect that info again in step number 1, you can send your customers again something special. You can send books via Amazon or flowers and food items to 1-800-FLOWERS. And again, the link is inside of the show notes here. And I also mentioned the 90X planner that James Wedmore sends out to his it's called Build Your Business by Design course that he offers. And I'll have the links to all of that in the show notes. I, again, really like the journals and the planners. I think that's a great idea because people really love them, especially if they're good quality. I think there's really no one I don't think that really likes a journal. So I think these are great ideas to share if you just want to send something. I don't want to use the word generic, but I think it's a good, safe gift to send someone as a planner or a journal of some sort. And again, you can get those from 90X Planner. That's just one option. Those are the ones I personally am aware of, and I actually own one of those journals myself, so I really like them. So this moves on to number 4. Set up a new customer onboarding email sequence. Now, this one was inspired by one of the entrepreneurs online that I really appreciate is Amy Porterfield. And at the time I'm recording this podcast episode, I'm going through a fantastic copywriting program called The Copy Cure by Marie Forleo. And in this course, there is a featured bonus mini training by Amy Porterfield. And in this training, she walks us through this process called the onboarding sequence that's delivered via email exclusively for newly acquired clients and customers. And primarily, Amy teaches how to create digital courses. So this is an email sequence that she's recommending that we create to send out to students who have purchased our digital course or online program. Now, according to Amy, from the moment you acquire a new customer, it's your job to support and reassure them that they made the right decision to do business with you. So in this onboarding sequence, it's a series of about maybe anywhere from 6 to maybe 7 or 8 emails delivered on a weekly basis that reiterates certain parts of their journey and process as they're working with you through the program that they've purchased from you. So I'm going to just give you kind of a brief overview of some of the things that Amy suggests as you're creating your own new customer onboarding email sequence. So one of the things, the area that she says you want to do is you want to reinforce first the email you want to send as a welcome email that reinforces their decision as to why they bought from you and why it's a good idea, that it was a good idea for them that they did it. So you want to acknowledge what they did, that it was a good idea that they did do this, they did invest in your program, and you want to reinforce that decision so that they don't feel buyer's remorse or think, oh, why did I do this, or whatever. But you want to reinforce that decision and reassure them that they made the right choice to buy your program. The second email that you can send out highlights the product's unique features. So you can take them through a tour inside of that email of if it's an online program about where they'll find things, especially if you've covered anticipatory things that they may come up against as they're going through the program. You can highlight where they'll be able to get information in specific areas of the course where they'll find that information. It also reduces the amount of emails that you will get for people asking where they find the information that they're looking for. Because again, if it's a pretty multi-layered course, people will get confused and it can be right in their face and they just don't see it. So by highlighting it, showing them where everything is, where the FAQs are, how to get in touch with you if there's an issue, all of those kinds of things. If they lose their passwords, anything of that nature, if you can highlight that in a separate email that you send out to them, again, that goes into reassuring them that you've got their back and you're looking out for them. Another recommendation she has is spotlighting your best customers. This is great for social proof. So again, if it's a program that they're having to go through that's going to take them a period of time and they're not quite feeling confident yet, you want to take customers or students, perhaps, that's already gone through your program and celebrate them and highlight them and showcase them. It can either be done via an interview that you maybe do on video, maybe through a service like Zoom, as I mentioned earlier. Or if you do a podcast, you can record it and have the replay there. Or it can just be photos and text. It just depends upon what you want to do. But you want to spotlight your best customers so that it encourages them to feel like they can do it too. Another popular model she recommends is show before and afters. So again, it can be stories or it can be images, but you just want to show your customers what's possible, what everything looked like before, what it looks like after. You also want to encourage action. This is really, really important because, again, people, if it's a program like a digital course of some sort, there's a lot of times that I've got this information, I'll get to it at some point or whatever, and many times they never get into action on what they've purchased. So that's really important to touch base with them to make sure that they're going through the materials. If you notice that they haven't been going through the materials, it's good to reach out and find out where their stuck points are. Again, give that little extra encouragement. If they've done some things, even if it's something very minute and simple, celebrate that win with them because, again, that encourages them to stay invested and shows them that you care. The next thing she recommends is inspiring your customers. So more than anything, you want to become your customer's biggest cheerleader. Throughout your onboarding emails, you want to let them know that you are with them each step of the way. So again, inspiration goes a long, long way. And again, you can do this with products too. It depends upon the product. And it depends upon, what uses that person may have for that product. But again, I think with anyone, you can always, just do those emails to touch base with them, to stay in contact with them, to keep the communication lines open. And you can write these emails up ahead of time and schedule them into an autoresponder service like ConvertKit or Aweber or say GetResponse. Those are just a few, to name a few. There's many others like MailChimp and so on and so forth. But you can write these emails up ahead of time and set them up in an autoresponder sequence so that they go out week to week to week. I also recommend adding on an extra layer by having maybe a Facebook group of some sort that coincides with your program or your product. And that way you can also show up on video and again, give them that extra little boost of support and information and confidence and remind them in your Facebook group to go back and check their inbox for those emails that you've scheduled and sent out to them. so that again they're closing the loop. You're letting them know or remind them, and just in case something goes to spam, that hey, I sent you an email about that. Did you see this case study about this, or did you get this extra lesson that I sent you, or these extra bonuses that I sent you? I sent those to you in an email. Go check your inbox and check those things out. So again, I think having a second tier or second layer to that component helps your onboarding sequence go a lot better. You could also do depending upon your client load or customer workload or whatever you have, you could also do maybe like a 15-minute just intake call with new students. It depends upon, again, how many you have. If you have, maybe another member of your team that can do these too, that would be great. But that would give you an opportunity to really just chat with them for a few minutes and find out why they signed up, what they're looking for, what they want to accomplish, what they like, what they don't like, and that way you can get some intel on them and collect that data, as I mentioned in tip number 1. So again, if you can arrange that, I would recommend doing maybe like a 15-minute onboarding call as well, individually with each person. Again, it depends upon how many people that you have. You may have to have someone else to help you with that, but that's another option as well. So again, the main thing of why this is so important is you want to dramatically reduce refunds, because if you're aware of the areas where newer clients experience challenges, you are prepared for these issues and can address them via an automated email sequence, warding off the possibility of frustration and possible cancellation of their work with you. Second, a well-planned and executed email onboarding sequence gives you a perfect opportunity to serve your customers at a higher level. And again, this goes back to the 15-minute introduction call or welcome call, however you want to handle that. If that's an option to put that into your program, I say add that. So now this moves us on to tip number 5, and our last one is called demonstrating you care always outweighs touting features. Whenever we're selling anything, especially online, we tend to want to go a lot heavy on our sales copy and the way we talk about our programs and stuff, talking about the features of the program and what they're going to get and all that kind of stuff. And of course, you want to talk about those things. It's important to talk about those things, but you don't want to make that be the only thing that you talk about, because at the end of the day, our customers are not just purchasing the thing that we're selling. They're purchasing the result they hope the thing that we're selling will give them. In other words, they're not purchasing a mousetrap. They want a mousetrap that does the job of getting rid of the thing they bought the mousetrap for. So you do this every step of the way through all of these tips I've given you today by reiterating that you care about them as people and not just the money that they gave you for the thing they purchased from you. So to wrap up this last tip in this episode, I want to share a quote with you, again, that I shared at the very top of the podcast episode. Nobody cares how much you know until you show them how much you care. Don't believe me? Ask a disappointed customer. That's the number one thing that I found in all of my years of working in a customer service related environment like a high-end hotel chain like the Four Seasons. Customers wanted to know that you had empathy for them, that you listened to them, you heard them and what they were frustrated about. They wanted to know that you understood and heard it, and that you were then concerned about them and wanted to take action to solve the issue that they were experiencing. So again, people don't really buy features at the end of the day. They don't really care if your program has 20 modules and 40 mini videos and 12 downloadable PDF documents. They do care that you're available to help them when they get stuck, that you reward them with reassurance to help them continually build their confidence, because that's really important, to course correct when they get off course, to celebrate wins and cheer them on to their next victory, to acknowledge your appreciation for them by sending them little unexpected surprises and letting them know that their faith and trust in you means more than just what you want for yourself. So that's going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. And I would recommend going through this and just implementing one or two. You don't have to implement all 5. Implement one or two. If the onboarding email sequence takes a little time to work on, give you some time to work on that. But I would recommend maybe sending a gift item in the mail, or again, doing that 15-minute onboarding call, getting to know them better, set up a Facebook group to be able to communicate with your customers better. Little things go a long way. And the more that you can implement all of these things over time, the better your customer appreciation will go up, the more that they will feel more cared for, and the more they will talk about you and refer other people to you as you move forward. Now, before I wrap today's episode up, I did mention tip number 4 about the onboarding sequence and emails that you would send out. So I wanted to share with you, for the month of July, I have decided I'm going to do what I'm calling Independence Month on how to build an email list, because an email list, of course, if you do business online, is very, very important. And you need to know how to build a list of people who are potentially really highly qualified potential customers or buyers for your product, service, or program. So what I've decided to do for the month of July is I'm going to celebrate Independence Day for the entire month of July by helping you create independence in your own online business via learning how to build the right list and attract the right people so that you can then offer your programs, products, and your creative services to. So look out for that starting next month. The first episode will come out on July the 2nd, I believe, which is the first Tuesday of July. I'm going to be first talking about how to build an irresistible list building freebie. I'm going to talk about why you want that, why it's important, and I'm going to go over several options that you have on what kind of freebies that you can actually have in your business. I'm also working to invite some creative entrepreneurs to come on to interview about what freebies they have and how it's helped them to grow their list and build more communication with their clients and customers and students and so forth. So we're going to do some interviews with a couple of entrepreneurs if I can work that out. I'm still reaching out to some people, but I want to do that. And there's going to be 2 podcast episodes just on freebies and what makes a good freebie and what options to put together the best one for you. And then I'm going to wrap up the month with a 5-day challenge, which we're going to go through that, and I'm going to talk more about that in a future episode, but we're going to spend 5 days together, and I'm going to actually walk you through how to build that first irresistible list building freebie. So we'll do that together at the end of the month. So again, look for that next month. I'll be sending out more about that. And if you're connected with me on Instagram, feel free to please do that there. Also on Facebook, and I'll put the link to my Facebook page also on there. And I will also tell you how to then get on the early notification list for the 5-day challenge, which will be happening on July the 29th through August the 2nd. So again, I'll be talking about that more in about 2 weeks or so. So anyway, I'm so glad to have spent this time with you. I hope that you implement some or all of these things that I've shared. If you have any questions for me or whatever, I'd love to connect with you over on Instagram. Again, the link is here in the show notes area of the page, which is getpaidforyourcreativity.com/014 for episode 14. Also, there'll be a link to my Facebook page there as well. You can connect with me there also. So again, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that you implement some of these things and show your customers that you appreciate them as I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So with that said, have a really great week, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. We have entered the age of creative self-employment. In the new economy, people are creating true security for themselves. That's why I believe there's never been a better time in history to monetize your gifts. So if you're ready to take control of your financial and creative future, I have something for you. It's my free audio and PDF program, 57 Ways to Monetize Your Gifts and Create True Security for Yourself. And you can get that at my website, getpaidforyourcreativity.com/57ways gift.